Jyotirmay. I'm Professor of Surgery at Mahavir Institute of Medical Sciences, Vikarabad. Warm welcome to you all. Today we are going to learn about thyroid cancer. What are the different malignancies? What are the different treatment modalities? How to diagnose and how to manage and follow up. Coming to the classification. Till 2017, this was the classification which has been followed worldwide. So thyroid cancers were, I'm using the word were, basically divided into two types. One is follicular derived and neuroendocrine, that is C cell derived. In simple words, thyroid consists of different types of cells. One is the most important cells are thyrocytes. So thyrocytes and the parafollicular cells. And among the thyrocytes, there were two different types. Again, one is differentiated cancers and anaplastic cancer. So let's go to the histology of thyroid. So before learning any malignancy of any organ as such, we should know what are the different types of cells present and what are the different malignancies that might arise from the each cell. So in order to know the pathology, we should know a thorough histology. If you try to remember the histology of thyroid, thyroid is the most important endocrine gland. Okay, then it has definitely follicles, and the follicles are lined by thyrocytes, that is follicular epithelium, which are cuboid in normal stage. Once the gland is in secreting stage, in active secretion, the cuboidal epithelium will become into columnar epithelium, and the lumen of the follicles will be filled up with the colloid. And also, there are different types of cells present in the thyroid gland. If you can see my cursor, so these are the thyrocytes, and this is the colloid material inside the follicle, thyroid follicle. There will be certain lymphocytes, as well as there will be certain cells called parafollicular cells. They are also called as C cells. Can anyone tell me what do parafollicular cells secrete? Can anyone?
Calcitonin.
Yes, very good. Calcitonin. Parafollicular cells secrete calcitonin. So, coming to thyrocytes and then the parafollicular cells and lymphoid tissue and the vascular epithelium. So, all the vascular derivatives will be there. So, the older classification methods, they used to concentrate only on the thyrocytes, all the lymphocytes, and they used to ignore all the other malignancies. But from 2017, WHO has devised another new method of classification of thyroid cancers. Okay. Coming to the differentiated cancers. I am still in the older system of classification. So, well differentiated carcinomas constitute about 80%. So, in your books, you usually read that is papillary carcinoma, follicular carcinoma, mixed carcinoma. That means both papillary and follicular carcinoma, and another variant of follicular carcinoma, that is Hurthle cell carcinoma. Madam, what are these carcinomas? All these carcinomas, they will arise from the thyrocytes. Okay, so still they are different variants of the well differentiated cancers. Why should they name when they are arising from a single cell? Why should they name in these patterns? So the cell of origin is same, but the histological pattern, the mode of spread, everything is different for each cancer. That's why they were different. They were classified under well differentiated carcinomas of thyroid. Okay, there are certain undifferentiated carcinomas. So they are very much different from the follicular, the previous carcinomas. That is, the worst prognostic carcinoma is anaplastic carcinoma. And then the parafollicular cells also give rise to one cancer called as medullary carcinoma of thyroid. And as there are lymphocytes, so there is lymphoma arising from the thyroid. So it is one of the most important extranodal sites of lymphoma. And the most common lymphoma found in thyroid is non-Hodgkin's type. But rarely, very rarely, less than 2% of the cases, that means out of 100 lymphomas, there is less than 1 to 2% might be Hodgkin's lymphoma. Okay. But can also be secondaries from these primary cancers. That means there can be secondaries inside the thyroid from colon, kidney, and breast. Okay. There are different organs, but these are the most three organs which can throw secondaries into the thyroid gland. So differentiated, undifferentiated, medullary arising from the parafollicular cells, lymphomas, and secondaries. This is how the thyroid cancers were classified, that is before 2017. But now, this is the recent classification. Please don't get afraid looking at this. So he also has simplified. But what these people have taken was the anaplastic carcinoma. There is also squamous cell carcinoma, mucoepidermoid, sclerosing mucoepidermoid, ectopic thymoma. So all these rare varieties of cancers also have been included. In oncology, thyroid was one of the least important organs in the oncology part of you, because thyroid cancers were, they used to constitute very less number of cases compared to the other cancers. So the cancers were restricted to papillary, follicular, lymphomas, like that. But with the arising, with the better diagnostic modalities, we are picking up more and more types of carcinomas. So each and every cancer can occur in thyroid, like paragangliomas, hematolymphoid, germ cell tumors. All these can also arise from the thyroid gland. That's why WHO has given this elaborate system of classification. But today we will concentrate mostly on the most common cancers which we see in the day-to-day clinical practice. Coming to the epidemiology of the thyroid cancer. Okay, because of the increasing in the imaging techniques, so incidence of thyroid cancer is increasing. It doesn't mean that the thyroid cancers are rapidly increasing in number. It is because of the better techniques. The patients are coming to the physician, that is to the doctor, at an early stage, and many imaging modalities like thyroid profile, we are doing ultrasound of the neck. So for some other reason, the patient might have undergone ultrasound neck. We are picking up certain nodules. We are further evaluating them, and then we are picking up more and more number of thyroid cancers because of the increase in awareness in the patients, and also because of the better diagnostic modalities. But compared to other cancers, the thyroid cancers will remain the same. See, if you compare, if you take a ratio, when the denominator increases, okay, the numerator is also increasing. So finally, the ratio is remaining the same. Breast cancer is increasing, carcinoma cervix, endometrial. So all these carcinomas are on rise. So in the same way, thyroid cancers are also increasing. So the ratio remains the same, but more and more number of cancers are being picked up nowadays. Okay, and females are more commonly affected than males. So thyroid is was basically a disease of females, but nowadays even male carcinomas are also being increased in numbers. Okay, coming to the risk factors. See, these risk factors vary with different histological variants of thyroid cancer. One of the important risk factors are, one is pre-existing goiter. So whenever a person is having visible enlargement of thyroid, so if it is being long standing, or any goiter, any short duration like 1 year, 6 months, so any pre-existing goiter will itself become a risk factor. And exposure to radiation. See, there are many radiational hazards. So either it was man-made like Chernobyl and so many disasters, Hiroshima. So it is because of the exposure to radiation, or any childhood irradiation. So the person as a child might have been exposed to any radiotherapy or to any radiation, which can predispose to certain types of cancer in thyroid. And thyroid is also a hormone dependent carcinoma. See, obviously it is an endocrine gland, so high TSH levels will predispose to certain carcinomas. We'll be leading in detail, okay? And presence of autoimmune thyroiditis. Can anyone name me few autoimmune thyroiditis? The most common is?
Hashimoto's thyroiditis.
Yes, Hashimoto's thyroiditis. See, we are picking up more and more number of Hashimoto's thyroiditis. As soon as you diagnose any hypothyroidism, you are immediately going to ask for anti-TPO antibodies, and they are coming in high titer. So that means the person probably might be having Hashimoto's thyroiditis. So autoimmune thyroiditis might also predispose to certain cancers. And many thyroid cancers are familial. So there could be association with other cancers, or they can occur in isolated form. So there could be other endocrine malignancies or exclusive thyroid cancers. There is a syndrome called Cowden's syndrome. So that also predisposes to family. So it is also associated with carcinoma thyroid and also the colonic lesions. Coming to the most common carcinoma, that is papillary carcinoma of thyroid. So many studies have been conducted and many recent advances have come in the treatment of papillary carcinoma of thyroid. So why it is being studied more often is it is the most common type of thyroid cancer. So it constitutes about 80% of all thyroid malignancies and it is mostly seen in females. Okay, and it occurs in younger age group, that is 20 to 40 years. So around 20 to 30 years is the most common and up to 10, 20 to 40 this can occur. Okay, when it is detected in old age, it is usually associated with other malignancies. So papillary carcinoma, if you pick up in any older age group, that is 40 plus, you have to search for other malignancies also. So this patient typically gives history of exposure to radiation. And also a famous statement in Bailey and Love, whenever there is iodine sufficient areas, there is carcinoma. It is probably papillary carcinoma of thyroid. Iodine sufficient, whereas iodine depleted areas, it is follicular variant. So the most common is papillary carcinoma, young population, females, exposure to radiation, and it is a hormone dependent tumor. So in these patients, there is high levels of TSH. So TSH, and it is more in Hashimoto's thyroiditis. So recently, we are picking up more and more cases of Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and these people have around 10 to 20% chance of developing papillary carcinoma of thyroid. So can anyone, do you have any doubts regarding this? So it is young patients in a iodine sufficient areas and previous history of exposure to radiation, hormone dependence, high TSH levels, Hashimoto's thyroiditis. You can see certain repetition of certain alphabets. Okay, I'll come to it later, how to remember. Okay, what are the features? It is a well differentiated carcinoma. So it is well differentiated. Well differentiated means, is it good prognosis or bad prognosis?
Good prognosis.
Yeah, okay. So, however, if it is well differentiated, it means that it has good prognosis. And few books mention most of the papillary carcinomas are non-encapsulated, but in few cases they can be capsulated also. They are very, very slow growing. Okay, it takes years for papillary carcinoma to get diagnosed. They are very, very slow growing tumors and they are multifocal. Remember this point, multifocal. So if the lady presents with a solitary nodule in the left lobe, there could be some focus even in the isthmus or even in the right lobe. So it is multifocal, non-encapsulated, but well differentiated, and there is intrathyroidal spread. So it is obvious. So it can spread from one lobe to other lobe. Okay, and it can be extrathyroidal spread. Whenever it gets metastasized, it usually spreads by lymphatic route. So remember this, they spread by lymphatic route. There are certain histological variants of papillary carcinoma. There is one variety called diffuse sclerosing variety. So it is seen in children. So usually these carcinomas are seen around 20 to 30 years of age. But if they are seen in pediatric population, and if we find this variety, that is diffuse sclerosing variety, it is associated with poor prognosis. Whereas papillary carcinomas as such carry very good prognosis. They are even called as excellent prognosis. Okay. There is one variety called as occult papillary carcinoma. So we might not find any focus of carcinoma inside the thyroid, but there is an enlarged lymph node, and if we take biopsy, okay, we might find papillary carcinoma of thyroid. So that is termed as lateral aberrant thyroid. Okay, so occult papillary carcinoma with an enlarged lymph node which is detected incidentally, that is called as lateral aberrant thyroid. So please just repeat in your mind. Okay, it has intrathyroidal spread, well differentiated, excellent prognosis, most common carcinoma, multifocal, and then spreads by lymphatic route. See, nowadays in NEET PG, they are giving a clinical scenario and they are giving either ultrasound or CT scan picture or even histopathological picture. So based on the history and the image pattern and the histological pattern, you should be able to diagnose different conditions. Okay. So if you see the ultrasound, so this is the typical papillary carcinoma. So it is well delineated. Okay. So this is the malignant focus and this is the lymph node. Okay. You can see. If you happen to do a radioactive iodine study, here is the cold nodule. So if you have studied the radioactive iodine uptake studies, different studies, so cold nodules usually indicate probably it is a malignant focus. So this is a cold nodule in the left lobe of thyroid. So probably this could be papillary carcinoma. So on further history, you should know what is the age of the patient, from which area she has come, and how long this tumor has been. So based on all those history and along with this finding, we might arise at the diagnosis of papillary carcinoma of thyroid. Okay. Are you with me till now? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So it predominantly spreads by lymphatic route. So papillary carcinoma spreads by lymphatic route and it can be detected by FNAC, because the future carcinomas which we are going to learn, majority of them cannot be diagnosed by fine needle aspiration cytology. So the beauty of this papillary carcinoma is it can be very nicely picked up by FNAC. Okay. There is another variant called as hobnail variant. It has very high proliferative index. So in order to know different subtypes of a carcinoma, so that you can have an edge over the other options in MCQs. Okay, this you will learn in future slides. Okay, and extrathyroidal spread and early lymph node metastasis is also common. See, the famous Orphan Annie nuclei. So this was the cartoon character. Okay, see, look at her eyes. So they are almost empty looking. And now look at these. Okay, look at the cells and the nuclei are grooved. Okay, okay, and this looks empty. So this is giving an empty Orphan Annie eye picture. So Orphan Annie nuclei. So there is a grooved nuclei and then the cell looks almost empty and clear, like this cartoon character, that is Orphan Annie character. Okay, even her dog also looks like this. Okay, this is a typical feature. Okay, this is the FNAC cytology. Okay, what are the histopathological features? Suppose you have done total thyroidectomy and the gross specimen, it is a firm irregular mass. There will be cystic components. Okay, and microscopy, please remember certain points. One is they are multifocal. As I already told you, there could be multiple foci of malignancy and there is invasion of lymphatics, because this is going to spread by lymphatic route. There is a net of invasion. So it looks like a net with closely they are invading the lymphatics of the thyroid gland. And the thyrocytes are large and show abnormal nuclear cytoplasmic ratio and this typical Orphan Annie cells. So this is the papillary pattern. What is papillae? As you know, what do you understand by papillae? That means a finger-like projections. Both papillary, follicular arise from the thyrocytes. But if you look at this, are they looking like finger pattern? Okay. So this is the finger-like papillae. So in an exam, if they ask a 20-year-old female comes with solitary nodule with, the total thyroidectomy is done, the histopathological feature is like this. So what is the most probable diagnosis? So it is papillary carcinoma. So these are the finger-like projections. Okay. So that's why please remember the histopathological picture also. Papillary means finger-like projections and also a significant finding, that is psammoma bodies. Okay. So these are the concentric calcification. So these resemble the cut section of a tree. So these are the concentric calcifications. Okay. If you do immunohistochemistry, they are typically CA negative, calcitonin negative. Okay. Because these are not arising from the parafollicular cells And the most important thing, please remember this, thyroid cancers, that too papillary carcinoma of thyroid, remember they are thyroglobulin positive. So after thyroidectomy, if you want to monitor, is there any recurrence or not? How is the thing? How successful was our surgery? Then you have to believe in this thyroglobulin levels. Okay. Remember this, thyroglobulin positive, and papillary carcinomas are keratin positive. Okay. So thyroglobulin, please don't forget this, and then keratin. So coming to the prognosis, it has got excellent prognosis. One of my professors used to say, if God comes and asks, you have to choose one cancer in your life, then please choose this papillary carcinoma of thyroid, because it has got excellent prognosis. Usually all the malignancies we learn by 5 year survival rate. But for this papillary carcinoma, especially thyroid cancers, we take 10-year survival rate, and it is up to 95%. It means that almost 95 out of 100 people, they are not going to die because of papillary carcinoma of thyroid. There are different grading system, and then different systems which predict the prognosis of any cancer. But for thyroid, we use this system called as AGES, AGES. A stands for age, less than 40 years. Younger the patient, the better is the prognosis. And then grade. If it is a low grade tumor, then definitely it has got very excellent prognosis. Extent of the tumor, whether it is restricted to thyroid or is there any lymphatic spread, and then size of the primary tumor. Less than 4 centimeters tumors have very good prognosis. Less than 1 centimeter have excellent prognosis, even if they are multifocal, even if there are 10 to 15 foci in the thyroid gland. If the size is less than 1 centimeter, it carries excellent prognosis. So age, grade, extent, and size of the tumor. There is another system called as AMES, staging system. One is age, metastasis. So here metastasis is very, very important. Okay. Then extent of the tumor and size of the tumor. So these three remain same, whereas here he takes grading, whereas here it is staging. That means it is related to the spread of the cancer. So are you with me till up to the papillary carcinoma of thyroid? We will go to next carcinoma. Okay, so what is the treatment? How is it diagnosed? One is, it is usually picked up incidentally. So the person might have come for something else or small swelling. Okay, a mild she might have noticed. So a young female with solitary nodule. Okay, or a very young patient with history of nodular goiter and history of irradiation in the past. So I have received some radiotherapy in the childhood. So now she has come with some lesion, thyroid lesion. So probably it could be papillary carcinoma. Okay. If there is no extra thyroidal, see, suppose if the tumor is restricted to the thyroid gland, the treatment of choice is total thyroidectomy. That means you are going to remove the entire thyroid, sparing the parathyroid. Okay. So total thyroidectomy. Why total thyroidectomy? Why can't you do hemithyroidectomy or subtotal thyroidectomy? Do you remember? It is multifocal. So in order to prevent recurrence, we are going to do total thyroidectomy for papillary carcinoma. Suppose there is ipsilateral lymphatic involvement. Suppose the tumor has spread to the same side lymph nodes. So along with thyroidectomy, you have to do modified, that is radical neck dissection. So you have to clear the lymph nodes on the ipsilateral, that is involved side, and you have to do total thyroidectomy. So for papillary carcinoma, the treatment of choice is total thyroidectomy. If the lymph nodes are involved, it is modified radical neck dissection. So are you with me till now? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this is the intra-op picture. So this person also has lymphatic involvement. So this is the hockey stick incision. So along with the thyroidectomy, they have cleared the lymph nodes also. Okay. So this is the total thyroidectomy specimen with isthmus and both lobes being removed. Okay, coming to a bit lesser incident carcinoma, that is follicular carcinoma. What is this specialty? It is almost, it constitutes up to 20% of all thyroid malignancies. Okay, please remember each and every point. It's very important while solving MCQs. Whereas papillary was more common in younger patient, This is common in middle-aged individuals. Okay. Okay. You remember this order: papillary, follicular, anaplastic, and then you can go to other cancers. Okay. So it is follicular carcinoma is common in middle-aged individuals and iodine deficient areas, whereas papillary was iodine sufficient areas. Okay. And it occurs in long-standing goiter. Suppose the patient might be harboring the goiter for 10 years, 15 years. So in such individuals, this follicular carcinoma can develop. Okay. And again, females are most commonly affected than males. And it is usually unifocal. Okay. Very, very rarely you find multifocal. So usually it might be restricted to one point. Okay. And you need tissue specimen to differentiate between adenoma and carcinoma. See, there are two things. One is adenoma, that is benign tumor arising from the gland, whereas carcinoma, there is infiltration of the basement membrane. So, how do you know that there is involvement or infiltration of the basement membrane? Can you get it by cytology just by looking at the cells? No, you need tissue specimen. So, in order to know the basement membrane involvement, you need tissue specimen. That's why FNAC is not useful to differentiate adenoma or carcinoma. So, to see this, we need the tissue specimen. Remember this point. So, FNAC is not useful for follicular carcinoma of thyroid. So, how does it spread? By capsular invasion and vascular invasion. Papillary carcinoma spreads by which route?
Lymphatic.
Whereas follicular spreads by hematogenous route. And the good point is they are well encapsulated tumors. So they'll be slowly growing, but not as slow as papillary carcinomas. Okay. In men, the follicular carcinomas are more aggressive. So it is more common in females. But in case of men with goiter, you should be more vigilant because they might be harboring these follicular carcinomas and they are very, very aggressive. You have to treat them at the earliest. Okay. They spread hematogenously and produce pulsatile secondaries. Please remember this. They spread to usually flat bones, that is skull, ribs, pelvis, and even the spine also. So they usually produce pulsatile secondary. So you might misdiagnose them as either dermoid cyst, or even many people have even opened up these secondaries over the skull without even taking any X-ray and landed in troubles. So any swelling over the skull or over the flat bones, please bother to take an X-ray. Please exclude the any bony involvement, and then you have to excise the tumor. Don't be in a hurry to excise any tumor, whichever you encounter. And they rarely spread by lymphatics. There is no absolutes in medicine. So they predominantly spread by hematogenous route, but very, very rarely they spread by lymphatic route. Okay. So in order to summarize, so follicular carcinomas, middle age, and then they spread by hematogenous route. A patient presents with long-standing diffuse goiter, or recently it is rapidly growing. So with voice changes. So as you have read in your clinics, your teacher might have taught you. So any patient with recent change in the voice or recent rapid in growth. So what you have to suspect: two things. One is hemorrhage inside the goiter, or one is malignant transformation. So malignant transformation, there is sudden increase in the size. Maybe the patient might present in late stages with directly secondaries. So the patient might not be aware of the goiter. So I've come, so please look at the swelling on my scalp. So it is like pulsatile. I don't know what to do. Please excise it. So, but you have to look at this goiter and then rule out the follicular carcinoma. Then explain to the patient that you are harboring secondaries. Okay. And if you do radioactive, so the patient usually comes to you with long-standing goiter, and the main concern of the patient or the treating surgeon is it benign or malignant? Okay. So you are going to subject the patient to different diagnostic modalities. One of the diagnostic modality is radioactive iodine study. So there are different isotopes of iodine. The one used for diagnosis is I-123. Please remember that. Whereas for therapeutic purpose, that means for thyroablative therapy, we use iodine 131. So iodine 123 is for diagnosing. Okay. Or the malignant foci. Suppose the patient has undergone, you have posted it as multinodular goiter, you have done subtotal thyroidectomy, or sometimes even total thyroidectomy. that histopathological specimen might show follicular carcinoma. Or if you are well blessed, you can subject that for frozen section. Within 1 or 2 hours, you get the report and do completion thyroidectomy if they give report as malignancy. So, okay. If they give adenoma, then you can close the incision. If it comes as malignant focus, then definitely do completion thyroidectomy on table. Okay. So with the frozen section, you can do the completion thyroidectomy. So this is the histopathological picture. So a middle-aged, or suppose a 40-year-old lady with long-standing multinodular goiter has undergone subtotal thyroidectomy. The histopathological specimen shows this. Okay. Now, will you be tell what is the probable carcinoma? So it is follicular carcinoma. So what are the investigations for this follicular carcinoma? One is ultrasound. So it will pick up the certain foci, okay, and radioactive iodine 123 study. So this will show cold nodules, okay. This will show cold nodule. Suppose if it is restricted to one lobe, you can do hemithyroidectomy, send it for frozen section. If it comes as follicular carcinoma, you can do completion thyroidectomy. Suppose if this frozen section is not there, you can do completion thyroidectomy within 1 week of your primary surgery. So repeat thyroidectomy within 1 week. Okay. The post-op radioactives, you're not going to leave the patient like that. You have to follow up the patient. So radioactive studies are needed to know any recurrence. If you are going to leave any thyroid tissue, then you have to follow up the patient with radioactive studies in future. Okay. If there is recurrence, then radioactive ablation can be done. I'll be coming to it later. Okay. See, after thyroidectomy, you have to do something called as TSH suppression. I already told you thyroid is a hormone dependent tumor. The higher the levels of TSH, the higher is the risk of recurrence. Okay. So you have to suppress the TSH. What suppresses TSH? It is thyroxine. So when you give thyroxine to the patient in the postoperative period, you are almost controlled in a manner. You are suppressing the TSH secretion so that the chance of recurrence is very minimal. Okay. There is something called as prophylactic neck dissection. Since it spreads by hematogenous route, it is not needed. See, few people, okay, out of care, they even do neck dissection in the same setting. Okay. But since it spreads by hematogenous route, do you think the neck dissection is needed? Removal of lymph nodes is warranted? No. Okay. So prophylactic neck dissection is not needed in case of follicular carcinoma because it doesn't spread by lymphatic route. Suppose there is lymph node involvement, you have to do functional neck dissection. Suppose I told you very rarely they can spread by lymphatic route, you can do lymph node resection. So 40 to 60% of 10-year survival. So compared to papillary carcinoma, this has got certain less survival rate. Okay. So coming to some other variant of follicular carcinoma called as Hürthle cell carcinoma. Okay. There are different types of thyroid cells. But this arises from some cell called as oxyphil cells in the thyroid. It almost behaves like follicular carcinoma, but there are certain differences. What are the differences which makes it different from the follicular carcinoma? One is it is multifocal, whereas follicular carcinoma was unifocal, okay? And it involves both lobes, spreads by lymphatics, okay? Doesn't take up the radioactive iodine. So any middle-aged patient, okay, then showing oxyphil, this Hürthle cell, I'll be showing the picture, and then a cold nodule, and then it is spreading with the lymphadenopathy. You have to suspect this Hürthle cell adenoma. But compared to follicular carcinoma, it has got higher mortality. So the order is, the excellent prognosis is papillary carcinoma. The next better one is follicular. The next one is Hürthle cell carcinoma. For this also, tissue diagnosis is needed because it's a variant. You definitely need to demonstrate the basement membrane infiltration. So what is the treatment of choice is total thyroidectomy with neck node dissection. See, remember, for almost all thyroid cancers, we do total thyroidectomy. Okay. There is another thing called as, so this is the Hürthle cell carcinoma. Okay. So what you have to remember is, it is a variant and then multifocal and then it has got slightly higher mortality. It is cold nodule, and then again tissue diagnosis is needed. Okay, are you with me till now? So once we come to MCQs, our brains will start working. Okay, I hope nobody is sleeping now. Okay, coming to another interesting carcinoma called as medullary carcinoma. It constitutes around 5% of thyroid cancers, but it is, I can call it as MCQ carcinoma, because majority of the MCQs will come from this medullary carcinoma of thyroid. So it is examiner's favorite carcinoma of thyroid. Why? Because it has got so many features. Coming to one by one. Okay, it arises from the parafollicular cells, also called as P cells. Okay, it is associated with MEN2, okay, 2A and 2B. Can anyone tell me what is MEN1?
Multiple endocrine neoplasia.
Yeah. What are the constituents of MEN1? Pan, para, pit. This is the mnemonic. Now, can you tell me? Pan, pancreatic. Okay, para.
Pituitary.
Parathyroid adenoma, and then pituitary adenomas. Coming to MEN, see, it is not pronounced as men. Okay, you have to pronounce it as MEN. Okay, MEN2. Can anyone tell? MEN2, parathyroid adenoma, then pheochromocytoma, and this carcinoma. See, obviously it is on the slide. So medullary carcinoma. Okay, so parathyroid, pheochromocytoma, and medullary carcinoma of thyroid. And also B. B, what is 2B? Marfanoid habitus. Okay, marfanoid thing will also be a constituent of MEN2B. See, it will go out of the class purview. Okay, but remember, it is a familial cancer. It is associated with MEN2 syndrome. And there is RET proto-oncogene mutation. See, nowadays, if you are preparing for entrance, you should definitely remember. So this should go inside your brain. So since it is a familial cancer, there is mutation of RET proto-oncogene. So FNAC can also diagnose this medullary carcinoma, whereas follicular Hartle, you cannot use FNAC. Okay, and presence of amyloid. Please remember this. Samoma bodies for which cancer? Samoma bodies for, yes, excellent. Amyloid will be present in medullary carcinoma. And calcitonin is the tumor marker because its function is to secrete calcitonin. What is the function of calcitonin? Calcitonin, what does it do? There are many substances which cause hypercalcemia, whereas there is only one substance which causes hypocalcemia, that is calcitonin. Okay, secreted by parafollicular cells of thyroid. It is from that cell there is medullary carcinoma of thyroid. If you see the normal histology, so these are the C cells, that is parafollicular. Follicular, these are adjacent to the follicular cells. So these secrete calcitonin. So that becomes the tumor marker for this particular carcinoma. Okay, this is the histological picture of medullary carcinoma of thyroid. What are the different? So it doesn't simply secrete calcitonin. There are certain other substances, that is histaminases, PGE2 and F2 alpha, serotonin, and VIP, vasoactive intestinal peptide. So what does VIP cause? It causes diarrhea. So any patient familiar with a solitary nodule or diffuse goiter in a young person, in a young patient with increased calcitonin and with the above histopathology, definitely in exam, you might not be able to identify this histopathological picture, but at least from these markers and from the history, you should be able to diagnose which probable cancer it is. So usually occurs in young patients, okay, with family history, and then with elevated calcitonin, VIP, serotonin, PGE2F2. So this forms the typical picture of medullary carcinoma of thyroid. Whereas CEA, carcinoembryonic antigen. See, for papillary carcinoma, what was the indicator for the follow-up, which I told? Can you remember?
Thyroglobulin.
Excellent, thyroglobulin. Whereas for this, you have to use calcitonin and CEA as the prognostic indicator. So for follow-up of medullary carcinoma, you should use calcitonin as a tumor marker, and also for the further follow-up, okay? CEA, it forms the prognostic indicator, okay? It also spreads by cervical lymphatic metastasis. But sometimes the liver, bone, brain mets can also be seen, okay? So if you see any medullary carcinoma of thyroid, the treatment is total thyroidectomy with bilateral neck dissection. So it need not, the lymphadenopathy need not be restricted to the side of the lesion. So it can be bilateral. So for this, you might have to proceed with bilateral neck dissection. And also there is something called as prophylactic thyroidectomy. Suppose a person, doctor, my mother had this carcinoma of thyroid. So the person gets checked and they are the carriers of RET oncogene, okay, proto-oncogene. So in such individuals, they have, you have to do something called as prophylactic thyroidectomy. So they have high chance of developing medullary carcinoma. So prophylactic thyroidectomy has to be carried out in such individuals. Okay, there are certain immunological modulators. So there are, the drug is, it is vandetanib and then labetuximab. So these are the two drugs which are used for the treatment of medullary carcinoma of thyroid. So remember these two drugs. Okay. Coming to the most aggressive carcinoma, that is anaplastic carcinomas. These patients will hardly survive. So if you see in clinics today, and within 6 months, the person is no more. So these carry the worst prognosis. Why worst prognosis? Because they are one of the most aggressive thyroid malignancies. Rather, it is the most aggressive thyroid malignancy, and because of the P53 mutation. So remember this mutation, whereas for medullary carcinoma, it is RET proto-oncogene, whereas for this it is P53 mutation. They have both papillary and follicular pattern and the typical giant cell pattern. Okay, they have giant cells, and the patient suddenly there is a severe increase in the size of the goiter. So within days, the size of the goiter will double, triple, and there is rapid development of hoarseness of voice, dyspnea, dysphagia. Okay. So you have to do true cut biopsy for this. See, usually for thyroid, we do either FNAC or do thyroidectomy and subject for histopathological examination. We rarely do true cut biopsy. For this, you sometimes the patient most of the time comes in inoperable stage, okay, with hard fixed lesion. So you have to proceed with true cut biopsy, which will show this histopathological picture. What is the treatment? So the patient would have definitely invariably come in very advanced stage. So you have to give palliative therapy in the form of tracheostomy and alternate enteral feeding, like feeding gastrostomy or jejunostomy, in order to sustain the nutrition. And then for the proper breathing, you have to do tracheostomy, palliative tracheostomy, and the survival is less than 6 months. Okay, so within few months, the patient is going to succumb to this disease. So if you take the CT coronal image, so you are seeing the coronal image. See, look at this. See, it is involving both lobes and more involving the right lobe. It is almost compressing the many structures. So this patient usually occurs in very elderly age group. Okay, any old patient 60 plus with rapidly enlarging thyroid gland with dyspnea, dysphagia, and if you take up the patient for any imaging studies, so it is diffuse involvement of the gland, diffuse enlargement of the gland with compression of the surrounding structures, usually indicates that it is anaplastic carcinoma. Okay, there are many giant cells in this picture. Okay. So you have read about different types of thyroid cancer. Coming to the lymphoma of thyroid, I'm not going into much details. Okay, it is mostly non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Almost 90 to 95% of the thyroid lymphomas are non-Hodgkin's and B cell variety. Rarely, in less than 2% of the cases, they are Hodgkin's variant. Okay, and it is one of the most common extranodal site for NHL. There are two different types. One is very aggressive type and then indolent. Indolent means it gives certain reliefs. Okay, slow growing. Okay, it is not aggressive. So what are the clinical features? Okay, it is rapidly enlarging, compressing mass. So it is not as aggressive as anaplastic carcinoma, but the gland is definitely rapidly enlarging, and there is retrosternal extension. So you have to keep in mind about the lymphoma of thyroid. But luckily, this can be diagnosed by FNAC. Okay, and you have to do control the local disease. So you have to do thyroidectomy, that is total thyroidectomy, followed by radiotherapy and chemotherapy for the future. Okay, so this is typical non-Hodgkin's lymphoma picture. Okay, coming to one therapy called as radioactive iodine therapy. You can abbreviate it as RAI therapy. Okay, what exactly is it? So you are giving the radioactive iodine, that is iodine 131 orally, okay, and you are going to ablate the functioning thyroid gland. So any thyroid cells present anywhere in the body are going to be destroyed by this radioactive iodine isotope, that is iodine 131. So when are you going to use this? I'm coming shortly. So there are certain prerequisites for the ablation. Suppose there is a case of papillary carcinoma. At the age of 21 or 22, she has undergone total thyroidectomy. But after few years, because of the residual tumor, she has come with some small enlargement, and or you have picked up some lesion. So what you are going to do? Are you going to do again surgery? No, it is not needed. You can ablate that tissue by this radioactive iodine 131. So post-operatively, so most often post-operatively, you are going to give radioactive iodine therapy. Or suppose the tumor is very small, less than 1 centimeter, in a middle-aged or elderly patient who has finished their family, okay? So they have completed the family and they have children. So now you are going to ablate that malignant tissue by radioactive iodine therapy. So you need to instruct the patient. So one is low iodine diet. See, the main idea is you have to increase the TSH levels. So how to increase the TSH levels? So it is by low iodine. So the TSH levels will start increasing so that the thyroid tissue will become more susceptible to this radioactive iodine therapy. So you are going to starve the gland with iodine. So you are not giving iodine, or you have to stop the thyroxine supplement. Okay, and then the TSH levels will increase. Now the gland, the thyroid tissue will be ready to be vulnerable for RAI therapy. So, or suppose if the levels are not increasing, TSH levels are not increasing, you can give thyrotropin injection in order to increase the TSH levels. So, where is it used? It's very, very useful for papillary carcinoma. Okay. So, this is available either in the liquid form or even in the form of capsules. Okay. For this RAI, one is low iodine. Okay. Stop thyroxine supplementation. You have to admit the patient, because once you give this RAI therapy, the person will be emitting radioactive waves, which is harmful for the surrounding individuals like family members or the workplace. So you have to admit the patient. Okay. So the tumors less than 1 centimeter, so you can administer this drug, and the less than 1 centimeters can be successfully destroyed. So it is literally going to destroy the residual cancer tissue. Any doubt? Anybody having any query? Okay. So when can it be given? Okay, you have done surgery. So how early, how late you can give? So how late, it depends on when the patient presents, but it can be given as early as 4 to 6 weeks after surgery. And the advantage is, even the extrathyroidal cancer, suppose the cancer focuses at some other spot, even that cancer tissue can be destroyed by radioactive iodine therapy. Okay. What about thyroid cancers in pregnancy? So we all have certain scenarios. What about in children? What about in pregnancy? So this is one of the very important components. As a surgeon, you have to tell your obstetrician when you can operate, or whether it's indicated or not, whether to operate or not, or when to postpone, or how long you can postpone the surgery. So thyroid cancer in pregnancy is a very important scenario. So PTC, so the papillary thyroid cancer has same course in pregnancy. See, there are certain malignancies which have rapid growth in during pregnancy. But papillary carcinoma, it's not like that. Whether the person is pregnant or not, it follows its own slow growth process. So you can wait till delivery, or the best thing is the patient will be anxious. See, I am having cancer, and on top of it, there is pregnancy. So, what is the harm to me and the fetus? So, the patient might be asking this. So, for that purpose, you can choose the second trimester for total thyroidectomy. Okay. So, what is the investigation of choice? That is FNAC, because for papillary carcinomas, most commonly occur during pregnancy also. So, you can do FNAC and then ultrasound, and the person can be safely operated during second trimester. Suppose if the papillary carcinoma is diagnosed in third trimester, you can wait till the delivery and then so after puerperium, you can operate the patient because there is no aggression, okay, of the tumor during pregnancy, okay. But radioactive iodine is contraindicated during pregnancy, okay. Medullary carcinoma of thyroid also. This also has the same prognosis of disease. So whenever a patient is diagnosed with any thyroid cancer during pregnancy, you can choose the second trimester or wait till the delivery. Okay. What is the surgery? That is total thyroidectomy. And then you have to give post-operative suppression. So you have to suppress the TSH. So you have to give the patient thyroxine. Usually high dose thyroxine has to be given because the lady is already, she has got the thyroid removed. So she needs thyroxine supplementation. And also in order to suppress the TSH and prevent the recurrence, you should give very high dose of thyroxine and also very high doses of vitamin D. Okay. If you come to the pearls, just remember, in order to summarize, most common thyroid malignancy is papillary carcinoma. The best indicator after radioactive therapy or even after surgery, it is thyroglobulin. The medullary carcinoma, the marker is calcitonin. When the most common carcinoma in young is papillary. The carcinoma occurring in long-standing goitres, it is follicular carcinoma. And familial carcinoma, it is medullary carcinoma. The worst prognosis is with anaplastic carcinoma. Now, so tissue specimen is needed for follicular, Hertel, and medullary carcinoma. But medullary carcinoma, you can even diagnose by FNAC. The presence of amyloid stroma is seen in medullary carcinoma. Some more bodies are seen in anyone?
Papillary.
Yes.
Papillary.
Now let's go to MCQs. Okay. True regarding papillary carcinoma of thyroid is. What is the option? What is your answer?
Excellent.
Excellent prognosis.
Okay. Is it an undifferentiated cancer? No, it is the most well differentiated cancer. So blood-borne metastasis is most common. Is it true? No, it spreads by lymphatic route. Is it capsulated? Most of the cases it is not capsulated, but it is multifocal and it carries excellent prognosis. So I'm sorry, it is the C is the right answer. Sorry for the type mistake. Okay. Sorry for this. A 26-year-old female with a palpable thyroid nodule and the needle biopsy shows amyloid stroma. Okay. The cervical lymph node on the same side is palpable. What is the preferred treatment? First, tell me the diagnosis. A young female, 26-year-old female, amyloid stroma.
Medullary.
Medullary carcinoma. So, what is the treatment for medullary carcinoma?
Total thyroidectomy.
Yes, total thyroidectomy. So, there are two total thyroidectomy options. One is C and D. One is with neck dissection and another with radiotherapy. Answer is C.
Bilateral neck dissection.
Actually, it is not needed because, but the option, you have to see the option. So, which one do you choose? C and D. So, if the person had given, instead of this, they had given bilateral neck dissection, you could have opted for option D. But here, the option is you have to choose the one best answer. So, answer is total thyroidectomy with ipsilateral neck dissection. Option ledandi. See, that option of bilateral neck dissection, is it there anywhere? No. So, the next best answer would be this total thyroidectomy with ipsilateral neck dissection. Is there any confusion, doctors? You have to choose best answer among the given options. Okay. Is it okay? I have to hear one yes or no, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. 20-year-old female. presents with a thyroid swelling, the most probable FNAC will not diagnose. Answer is?
Follicular.
Okay. Why did you come to the conclusion of follicular carcinoma?
Ma'am, tissue is needed.
Excellent. Okay, next, one more. Okay, it's coming to options one by one. Papillary. So 20-year-old papillary will go very close. But the thing is, the most probable FNAC will not diagnose. So you have to go with this option. Okay. Had there been Hurthle cell adenoma and follicular carcinoma, which one are you going to choose? Still you choose follicular carcinoma. Okay. So the thing which so suppose if you have follicular carcinoma in your option, you definitely need tissue specimen. So there will be multiple answers, multiple correct answers. But the best answer you have to choose. Papillary carcinoma can be easily diagnosed by FNAC. Even medullary carcinoma, yes, even lymphoma of thyroid also you can diagnose by FNAC. Suppose they give both follicular. So instead of follicular, had they given Hurthle cell, what would you have put? The option would have been D only, because among all this, where you absolutely need tissue is follicular carcinoma and then Hurthle cell adenoma. Okay. The expression of which of the following oncogene is associated with medullary carcinoma? Very easy.
Option
P53.
C.
Medullary carcinoma.
RET proto-oncogene.
P50.
See, P53 is associated with, I'm coming to that. Okay. The answer is RET proto-oncogene, whereas P53 is for anaplastic carcinoma of thyroid. Okay. HER2/neu, it has the components, it is for breast cancer, endometrial, gastric, salivary duct, and then non-small cell carcinoma of lung. So the option would be RET proto-oncogene. That's why I told you prophylactic thyroidectomy for the RET carriers. Okay. So it is medullary carcinoma of thyroid. It is RET proto-oncogene. Okay. RB, retinoblastoma gene. So it is for different carcinoma. So P53 for anaplastic, HER2/neu for breast, endometrial, gastric, salivary duct, and then non-small cell carcinoma of lung. Please read this. Male, diagnosed with medullary carcinoma of thyroid and pheochromocytoma. So which syndrome is this? Multiple endocrine neoplasia. Which variant? MEN2. Okay. Which has to be operated first. So he has multiple neoplasias. Both are important. Both have to be operated, definitely. Which has to be operated first. What happens in pheochromocytoma? Will the patient be calm, normotensive during surgery? No. There will be something called as malignant hypertension. So at the time you start handling the specimen, your anesthetist will be warning, oh, there is blood pressure. So it is tension surgery for the anesthetist because it causes torrential bleeding and there is malignant hypertension. So in order to prevent malignant hypertension, you have to first operate the pheochromocytoma and then you can operate the medullary carcinoma of thyroid. Have you seen thyroid surgery, everyone? Is it a pure bloodless surgery? No, it has lot of bleeding component. So in order to prevent this malignant hypertension, you have to operate the pheochromocytoma first and then you have to operate on your thyroid. Okay. Prophylactic thyroidectomy is done for. Very easy. Your answer is?
MEN2. MEN2.
Yes, MEN2B. Why not Hashimoto's thyroiditis? Is surgery indicated or contraindicated? Ideally, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, surgery is contraindicated. Surgery is indicated only when there is very severe cosmetic distortion or any suspicion of malignancy. Because Hashimoto's thyroiditis is nothing but it is permanent hypothyroid state. So in case of early Hashimoto's thyroiditis, there is something called as thyrotoxicosis. What is it called as? Hashitoxicosis. Okay, the person initially presents with severe hyperthyroid picture. Then, with the destruction of thyroid cells, the person will go into permanent hypothyroidism. So, surgery is actually contraindication for Hashimoto's thyroiditis because you are removing the remaining. Some cells are remaining. So, you are going to remove those cells also, functional thyroid tissue also. So, Hashithyroiditis, it is actually contraindicated. Coming to Riedel's thyroiditis. So, these are not definitely the prophylactic thyroidectomy is definitely not indicated in Riedel's thyroiditis and also Graves. When do you operate in Graves? When there is severe thyrotoxicosis, not controlled by medication, okay, then you are going to do thyroidectomy, but never prophylactic thyroidectomy. So, for the fear of medullary carcinoma, you are going to do prophylactic thyroidectomy in case of MEN2B. Okay. Okay. In case of adenomatoid goiter, which carcinoma is most likely? The answer itself, the question itself is giving you something. Adenomatoid. Adenoma.
Follicular.
Yes, follicular. So in any adenomatoid goiters are usually long-standing, okay? So these have most probably the follicular pattern. So in an adenomatoid goiter, the carcinoma that is most likely is follicular carcinoma, okay? Thyroid carcinoma associated with hypocalcemia is very easy.
Medullary.
Yes, that's it. These are very easy questions, okay? Due to calcitonin, which causes hypocalcemia, okay? Which of the following is not a histological variant of thyroid cancer? This is pakka filtering MCQ. Unless you know properly, you cannot answer this because you are going to lose 1/3 mark and which equals to 1 year of your PG preparation. So please think and answer. Follicular variant, you have heard about it. Anaplastic, yes, that is a histological variant. So you are stuck between Merkel and insular pattern. What exactly? Which one to rule out? Any guess? Suppose there is no negative mark, which one are you going to put?
Merkel.
Okay, let's see the answer. Merkel. So it is not a histological variant. So insular is a histological variant. What exactly is it? Insular carcinoma, it is a variant of follicular carcinoma. See, follicular carcinoma has so many avatars, okay? So it has got Hürthle cell, okay, so many types, and it has got one more called as insular carcinoma. It is high grade follicular carcinoma, okay? It is one grade higher than the Hürthle cell carcinoma, okay? What exactly it is? Poorly differentiated. It has follicular variant and it has got very, very poor prognosis. But the worst prognosis is still which carcinoma? Anaplastic carcinoma. Slightly a lower side is this one. And then, inka koncham met digite, it is Hürthle cell. Below Hürthle cell is follicular. And then below it is papillary carcinoma. Okay. Again, very easy. A 20-year-old pregnant woman in her second trimester presents with solitary nodule in left lobe of thyroid. Investigation of choice is
FNAC, ma'am.
yes, okay. Few people have seen, they have even answered hemithyroidectomy because as soon as they saw pregnancy, second trimester, so they are very much tempted to operate and directly send for. No, the investigation of choice is definitely FNAC, okay. So this is very least invasive, okay. Definitely it's an invasive technique, but it is very least minimally invasive and then you can get excellent diagnosis. So what probable carcinoma she might be harboring? Solitary nodule in a 20-year-old lady. Most common papillary carcinoma. So for papillary carcinoma, you can safely use FNAC. Why not these options? Hemithyroidectomy and frozen section? No, you need not. First, you have to diagnose and then only do surgery. So it is not just a long-standing goiter. Suppose if this 20-year-old pregnant woman with long-standing goiter since 10 years, now she has come suddenly, all of a sudden, she has remembered in her second trimester and come to you and you are suspecting some follicular pattern, FNAC is not conclusive, then you can do thyroidectomy, Rosen section, and then completion thyroidectomy if it turns out to be malignant. Radioactive studies are definitely contraindicated during pregnancy. So now, are you able to understand different types of thyroid carcinomas? What is the treatment, and then how to diagnose, how to differentiate different thyroid carcinomas? Now, queries, please. Please come up with queries, questions. Have you understood the topic?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So please go back to your Bailey and Love. Please read the salient points. Please pick up a tabular form, and then you have to differentiate which age group, what are the tumor markers, and then the histological pattern, histological variants, different thyroid surgeries. So if you read about the benign thyroid conditions, you have to make a chart, and then what is subtotal, what is hemi, what is total thyroidectomy, what is the neck dissection, what are the different neck dissections, radioactive iodine therapy, diagnostic radioactive therapy, and then different therapeutic modalities. If you have any doubts, please come up. Any doubt?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, doctors.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, doctors.
Hello, Jyoti.
Yeah. Yes.
Can you hear me, Jyoti?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, Jyoti. Well presented, Jyoti.
Thank you.
Yeah, there were no technical issues. I didn't find any issues. So
Okay.
your like everything was clear, Jyoti.
Okay. Thank you.
The
Thank you,
audio
Dr.
and the visual effects, everything was very good.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, Jyoti.
I was expecting more questions from the student
Students.
community. Either they have understood very well and they were answering even well also. So I think they have understood the topic.
Yes,
Thank you,
Jyoti.
madam. It was nice, really.
Thank you,
Very
sir.
nice,
Thank you.
Jyoti.
It was
Thank you
nice.
very much.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.